reporter of the New World Order, Bishop Grady, laying on what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So we currently have 14,000 troops in Afghanistan, and we are trying to remove half of them, and we're in peace talks with, are supposed to be in peace talks with the Taliban, and having them get in peace talks with the Afghani government. Now this is all funny, one, because depending on how you looking at it, the Taliban, you can consider them terrorists as well. Even as most recently as the last couple weekends ago, they were accountable for the murder of dozens. So depends on who you asking. But secondly, because 2018 was the most that we bombed Afghanistan since in the last 10 years. And mind you, we've been in an 18-year situation over there, war actually, the longest war in U.S. history ever since after 9/11. And last year the bombing number was at 7,400, and this was given. Our military was given a license to do so without White House approval. So, it's kind of funny shit going on. I don't know. We'll see how this pans out. War, Green, and Graduate. So, it's a cold world out here. They just having they had a peace summit, as they described it, in the Middle East. It was called the Peace and Security in the Middle East Summit. Basically, orchestrated by us and held with other world power leaders or whatever. Benjamin Netanyahu. Pardon me, the president of Israel, for example, Netanyahu was there. Our Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, was there. Our Vice President, Mike Pence, was there. And it was all disguised as peace, but it was all designed to drum up support for, sanctions and action being taken against Iran. And Benjamin Netanyahu actually was interviewed and even said that this was about getting everybody on board for a war with Iran. Same time, Rudy Giuliani is actually talking to Iran exiles, the MEK, which were actually labeled as terrorists, but basically trying to drum up the same type of support. So it's funny shit going on over there. So the European Union, which is basically the organization that pretty much combines all of the European countries, except Britain, because they're trying to exit. That's what the whole Brexit thing is about. Nevertheless, this European Union actually put Saudi Arabia, our weapons, one of our clients, essentially for buying U.S. weaponry by the boatload, has actually been placed on their blacklist because they are seen as a threat for money laundering and for sponsoring terrorism. And in a twist, other countries that have been put on there are actually like U.S. territories. You're talking about Puerto Rico, Guam, American Samoa, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Now, this isn't going to result in sanctions, but it does mean that they're going to be heavily scrutinized anytime there's something done with on a level of banking. So stay tuned. So the Congress actually, the House of Representatives, not Congress. Congress consists of the House of Representatives and the Senate, but the House actually approved a bill to end funding Saudi Arabia for this war in Yemen, basically to end the arms deal that was essentially started in the Obama era. Now, since that deal was brokered during the Obama administration, 85,000 kids are said to have died from malnutrition. Saudi Arabia in general has been bombing the fuck out of them month after month, year after year, and we're talking about 14 million people are said to be at risk of starvation, famine, real hefty words like that. And it's fucked up because Trump sees the money in it. He's talking about we get $100 million in arms from in an arms deal from them, and he's acting like he's gonna veto it. So the Trump administration has actually imposed this stay in Mexico policy that's requiring that asylum seekers, immigrants coming from, Mexico and Central America and South America, whatever, trying to get into America, the United States of America, pardon me, and they're being held in Mexico in these detention centers that are known to be cold, just not really, good living conditions. It's, they need hats and gloves. They're not allowed to go outside. It's like, some torturous prison type shit or whatever. And nevertheless, riot police actually had to block hundreds of people from trying to break into the border. So Congress today is actually voting on this stay in Mexico policy. They're only processing about 15 applications a day for asylum. These are people legally trying to get in, but there's like 1,700 people there. So we'll see how this happens. This is a disaster. So Paul Manafort, Trump's former campaign chair, who had to plead guilty last year to 8 counts of tax fraud, bank fraud, actually misrepresenting himself as like a foreign official and dealing with the Russians, and dealing with some Russian officials. He was acting as like a lobbyist or whatever. Bunch of nefarious, sneaky fuck shit, right? Nevertheless, he had to actually go to jail behind that. And Trump was in public saying, it had nothing to do with collusion with Russia and all this type of shit or whatever. But check this out though. So, and his deal was to cooperate with the feds in order to get a lesser deal, whatever. So, he was gonna snitch, and he lied. I guess he ain't a snitch, but he lied about his dealings with the Russians and some other shit too, whatever. He had already pled guilty to conspiracy. Now they're gonna tackle him more years, and he could be facing life in prison. So it just shows you it's some real weird fuck shit going on up there at the White House. We have another pro-Trump supporter and liar. So, for those who don't know, the Attorney General, pretty much you're like the highest officer in the land or whatever. Used to be Jeff Sessions, known racist. That he had the Anglo-Saxon. The police force should be Anglo-Saxon as it's always been, whatever. Racist rhetoric, no way around it, right? Nevertheless, he Trump got tired of him, basically, tried to force him to resign, and brought in this new dude, Michael Whitaker, whatever, who had a congressional hearing in front of the Housing Judiciary Committee, and it turns out that he lied. He lied about Trump, his conversation with Trump about Michael Cohen, who's Trump's former personal lawyer, who also got caught out there lying about, giving finances to Stormy Daniels to keep her mouth shut about a little sexual encounter. So he brought in another liar and another pro-Trumper who was trying to be disguised as if he ain't have no dog in the fight. So the Federal Reserve, the people that are responsible for printing the money and essentially selling it back to the government and all of that in exchange for bonds, nevertheless, they make the money. The dollars that you might have in your pocket now, they make that shit, they print it, and then they burn it, and they control the inflation of the country. Nevertheless, they deal with a lot of finance, and they have said that 7 million Americans are in default of their car insurance, or behind on payments for their car insurance by at least 3 months. 7 million. So, and that's reflective of pretty much how strong the economy is. You hear the Republicans talk about, or the pro-Trumpers like, oh yeah, unemployment's so low or whatever. But motherfuckers is not getting money. You know what I'm saying? Slaves had jobs too, you dig? Nevertheless, it's 7 million people. Y'all motherfuckers, we got Craigslist, man. Start buying these used cars, man. Stop trying to floss in a lease, man. Signing out, Walgreen and Graduate. For this BFN Report, at last week, exactly 1 week ago, they had a congressional hearing with the Department of Health and Human Services to basically figure out how they were implementing the actions, how they were implementing Trump's zero tolerance policy for separating families and detaining children at the border. We're talking about families that were trying to creep into the country, and as a result, had the adults put in jail and kids put in detention centers. Now, there's stories of these kids being abused, some being denied sleep and food, and all types of abusive claims that are out there and have been validated. But nevertheless, they don't even know how many fucking kids they have. There could be thousands more that are unaccounted for, and they have no idea where they are. Now, this is serious, so I'm talking real shit. Representative Jan Kachowski, I think I'm saying her name right, Shetkowski, representative in Illinois, actually said that, this is state-sponsored child abuse and pretty much kidnapping. And in the world of organ harvesting, this is awful. So, Colorado's primetime sports owner, Steve Martin, actually runs an apparel store in Colorado where he has a license for, or had a license for, all 32 NFL teams. He was open for 20 years, but now he has to actually give up his business because he can't meet his lease requirements, and that's because the motherfucker actually took a stand against Colin Kaepernick and Nike when they did the ad late last year, where he basically said, the point of the ad was basically, believe in something even if it means sacrificing everything. No different from, John Henry's "Give me liberty or give me death." The shit you so-called fake patriots actually praise or whatever, but you know what I mean? It's the same principle. Nevertheless, he went on this tirade, slashed all the prices, and tried to get rid of Nike, and now he doesn't have any money to keep his store up. So this is where racism goes wrong. For this BFM report, so Jeff Bezos was caught out there in an affair with Lauren Sanchez, who and their text messages reached the National Enquirer. Now, last week he was actually even wrote out in a publication that he thought it was crazy. He felt like he was being blackmailed and extorted by them because the National Enquirer, its owner, American Media, the person that runs that, is in cahoots with Trump. So it's like Trump is, has been anti-Washington Post and as a result anti-Jeff Bezos, and they're kind of low-key attacking him. So he thought it was this elaborate plot to destroy his character. And then it turns out that the woman's brother was found out to be the leak, and he declined for comment. But it's crazy that he's so paranoid because he runs Amazon. Amazon is right now one of the leading technology companies in creating this surveillance state now. So the House Judiciary Committee actually introduced a set of bills that are designed to just put more regulations on the background checks that go into those who are purchasing guns. And one person that's actually on this committee, Lucy McBath, who was a representative in Georgia, and actually the mother of Jordan Davis, who, for those who remember, he was a boy who was shot at and killed while he was in the car with 3 of his friends or whatever. And the car was shot at. He was killed by a white guy named Michael Dunn, definitely a racist, who wanted them to turn the music down while they was at a gas station. But nevertheless, this is what's happening, and this is the anniversary of the Parkland massacre last year, where a 19-year-old kid by the name of Nick Cruz actually came to a Stoneman Douglas High School and shot up and killed 17 people. So the head of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, otherwise known as FEMA, who was known to have done a terrible job of their handling of Puerto Rico last year, and a terrible job of their handling with the California wildfires last year, in Puerto Rico, dealing with the hurricanes and all of that, whatever. And there's definitely a misappropriation of funds going on. Nevertheless, the head of FEMA, Brock Long, was actually forced to resign. He resigned because a government order determined that he was improperly using FEMA vehicles to, travel home and just, doing some fuck shit, taking his white privilege to the furthest extent possible, and they obviously got him in some fucking trouble. So, good luck finding a job after that. And he was definitely a known Trump supporter, so, a Trump defender. So, good riddance to him, man. Wore green at graduation. So, Elliot Abrams is actually the new U.S. Special Envoy to Israel. Now, not to Israel, pardon me, to Venezuela. Now, this is important because he was actually implicated in and actually found guilty to lying to Congress back during the Iran-Contra scandal, which most of my people know as the scandal that actually pumped a bunch of crack inside neighborhoods so that the government could take that money and buy weapons to fight a war in Central America or whatever. So he already has a bad record for anything going on below the southern border of the United States. He's already known as a snake. And somehow, even though he was pardoned by George H.W. Bush, he has still found himself a political position where he is representing our government.